Hey,
what's the name of the show again? We have a name. We talked about this. The name of this show is John.
what is it? I mean,
It was something like it had to do with one of your catchy slogans. It was like "Live clean."
almost done.
I think I forgot. We keep changing the name. Either
Almost
way,
done.
we'll call it almost done.
Almost
You
done.
know, well, welcome to the Pit
Or
Online Dojo
how about
YouTube.
don't let anyone take your lunch money?
That's what it was.
That's what
Don't
it
let
was.
anyone take your lunch money show. Weekly live, 5 o'clock with John Hackelman and co-host Angelo Ferrer here. How's it going? Today's title is Keep KaJuKenBo. KaJuKenBo. Now, some notes. I put together some stuff before when you told me you wanted to talk about this. I went out there and put together some stuff and asked some questions to the KaJuKenBo community before we
Yeah,
got started.
good.
And And before I talk about that, I'll let you. I want you to kind of. I don't. Wow. Yeah. I would like to see it. You shared with me why you wanted to do this topic. So if you want to go over what you went down a KaJuKenBo rabbit hole, and then for those of you listening right now, wondering what KaJuKenBo is, it's a martial art that started in Hawaii. And for those of you that may or may not know, John Hackelman's comes from that background, and now he has his own
That's
style
my
called Hawaiian
lineage.
Kempo. So you went down the KaJuKenBo rabbit hole. How did this happen? Where did this start?
I feel like Kaju Kempo is my lineage. It would be my father. Kaju Kempo would be my father, and then I would be Hawaiian Kempo. Say, you know what I mean? Um, but they're my father. You know, all of my training was Kaju Kempo, and the reason I didn't bring it on was because I wanted to change a few things that I wasn't really happy with in Kaji Kempo. Um, and anyone can do that if they want to. Nobody has to stick with their original art. But I wanted to open a gym, and I didn't feel it was being true to Kaji Kempo if I changed, took out all the katas, took out the grab arts, the punch tricks, the taiokas, and stuff like that. So I could have done that and just called and then put in all the stuff I put in, which is Hawaiian Kempo now. And I could have just said, I'll just call it Kaji Kempo Hackelman method. But I didn't do that because I felt that wasn't being true to Kaji Kempo. I mean, you could open a hamburger spot and make all your own kind of hamburgers and put other things on the menu and then call it McDonald's Hackelman style. It's just once you take things out, I thought of Kaji Kempo, since I took so much out of it, and I cleared this with my instructor, Walter Godin. I said. I I don't feel right calling it Kaji Kempo. I wish I could because I love Kaji Kempo, but I wasn't being true to it, so I called it Hawaiian Kempo. And now I'm seeing all over the place they have like Kaji Kempo Ramos style, Kaji Kempo so and so style, Kaji Kempo this style and that style. And I don't understand it. Either you're Kaji Kempo, you know, you're nobody's style. You're your own Kaji Kempo, or if it's a different style, call it something else. So it kind of bugs. I want Kaji Kempo to be Kaji Kempo, and then if you have another style, then call it something else. But it's kind of like riding on the coattails of Kaji Kempo, but but changing it around. Kind of like you live under the roof of your parents at 25 years old, but you don't want to you want to live there, but you don't want to do what they ask you to do. So you kind of want to live there, but you want to be your own man. You know what I mean? That's what I feel like it's kind of like. What do you think?
Okay, so we have some comments that came in. So I'm gonna jump onto those right now. That way that people can be engaged. And yes, if you have comments, please comment so I can bring them up. Um, Jesse, that is tough. Because there are many systems that are leading to a soft style, which is not my thing. I prefer hard style. I believe we should unify katas and forms. Everyone does their own thing. Only 3 katas to keep Mr. Hackelman proud. So that's what Jesse has to say. So let's go back to this though, because you're saying let's keep KaJuKenBo. And
Keep it
to go
KaJuKenbo.
off of this, and I know I say this all the time on my podcast, shameless plug, Social Jello with Angelo podcast. Whenever someone starts talking about what is KaJuKenBo, I'm like, I already talked about this for so many hours with John and two other black belts about what is KaJuKenBo. But I guess we have to kind of talk about. You mentioned it earlier. You said the katas and the grab arts and the punch tricks. You got rid of them, but a part of you still feels that that is the original KaJuKenBo. Is that correct?
That is the KaJuKenbo. Like anytime I went to a KaJuKenbo school, they did they had the same, just like Shotokan. Shotokan is Shotokan. They don't call it Goju Ryu Funakoshi method. And then, Masayama didn't call it Goju or Shotokan, Masayama style. He made his own thing out of it. So if you're gonna take out the proprietary movements that made that system or that style is not a philosophy, it's a style. It has its own set of systems and policies and procedures. So if you're not using that, I mean, if you think of it that way, say you're using, say McDonald's or say Starbucks, serving milkshakes and hamburgers, but you're making it, but you want to call it Starbucks because that has a big name recognition, and you want to kind of be there, but not really. You want to do your own thing too. You're not going to call it Starbucks, Jones style. I mean, it's either Starbucks or it's not. And if it wants to be Starbucks, then make it a Starbucks. Keep the things that are in Starbucks, and if you want to change it around, change it and make your own thing. That's what I felt.
So again, specifically, there is a curriculum. People,
Okay.
so I've talked about this with Mitch Powell, and the last verified curriculum that's out there when Seizure was still alive. Gary Forback put together a video series on VHS. Now it's on DVD, and he's got internet access to that if you want to check that out. And that's original curriculum. Like Seizure was right there, watching it being taught. It's a set of punch defense. I think it's like 20 different punch defense tricks and like 20 different grab defense tricks and like defense against club and knife, and they're formatted self-defense techniques, as well as, and this is where the history gets kind of weird. I think it's like 10 to 20, and this is, I need to look better into this, but there's definitely at least 10 different forms, katas, piñons,
Yeah.
palamas. Did Godin have the piñons, palamas? That's because when I was
He
talking to
had one.
David
I think he had
Tavares,
one pinion.
he had one piñon. Okay.
Yeah, I don't remember the Palamas. Those were, I don't
Well,
know
the
where those
piñons,
were.
they're the same thing. That's just the same name for the same
Yeah,
thing. Somewhere along the line, he decided to call them palamas to honor the Palama settlement that he started KaJuKenBo at back on the island. So it's the
yeah,
same thing. And then, from my understanding, was before Seizure passed, and I was there before, a little before he passed. I was at one of the last seminars, belt promotions, and he was talking about how every school should have, if not all, at least some of that material in their curriculum. So like that was one of the things he said. If you're gonna call it KaJuKenBo, he wanted there to be, if not all of those tricks. And again, you can check it out. Talk to Gary Forback. He loves slanging those DVDs. You can get them from him. They're pretty cheap. So if not some, all of that curriculum should be in your program if you want to call it KaJuKenBo. Now, at the same time, though, he never. And you talked about this, right? I told you. You asked me, can anybody copyright KaJuKenBo? And I said, no, they cannot. There was some legal paperwork that he put together that made KaJuKenBo kind of like public domain. So it's no one can grab it and trademark that name. So it's really up to the people that practice it to kind of mitigate who is and who isn't KaJuKenBo, and that's controversial on its own. So now, with all that being said, you went down your rabbit hole. What specifically happened down your rabbit hole search that sent you on this path of keeping KaJuKenBo? What did you end up seeing? What were some of the things? I guess list 3 things that you saw that you didn't like that you felt were not KaJuKenBo. We'll talk about that. Let's get controversial here.
Well,
What
first
are
of
the
all,
3 things you saw
here's
that you were
one.
like, that's not KaJuKenBo?
Well, one is, I'm not saying this isn't KaJuKenBo because I guess great grandmaster um, Emperado, I don't know when they switched that because I don't remember any Siju, Sifu, Sigung, any of that. I don't know why that's brought into a system that was made with English language. It was made, in Honolulu, Hawaii, and there was no kung fu uh, terminology back then. There was no Japanese. Why not sensei? I mean, there was a karate system. There was karate in it. There was, so I don't remember any. I remember instructor, chief instructor, assistant instructor. I remember, professor. I remember master, grandmaster. It was all English terminology. I don't know where those pronouns came from, but the Siju, Sigung, whatever, but they weren't in the system that when I was around. So that must have came later. So there's one thing that I'm not crazy about, but I know that Emperado, I know that, but then there was people calling it a different style. Like you could have like the Pit in Salt Lake City. We got the Pit in Salt Lake City. You got McDonald's and Arroyo Grande, but you're not gonna call the Pit like I gotta Ramsey Nijum style or Nijum method, or you're not gonna have Hawaiian Kempo. Hawaiian Kempo would be a better one. So you're not gonna have Hawaiian Kempo, Jones style. Hawaiian Kempo is Hawaiian Kempo. If you want to teach it, if you don't, change it. So that kind of KaJuKenBo is a style. Um, Hawaiian Kempo is a style. The two are styles in and of themselves, proprietary, and I just don't see that bothers me that people you can't trademark KaJuKenBo and make it real and make it a real art that's in and of itself, but you can trademark it if you attach your name to it. That's like,
Yeah, they
that's
can.
like
That legally they can. And I think the reason he did that was because and I've heard this happen to I've talked about this to you before, and I talked about this on my show. He was trying to avoid some things that he saw happening in the I'm just going to say it in the Taekwondo community. In the Taekwondo community, there was some other styles, and some people came in and trademarked the style, and then told everyone else, if you want to do the style, you have to pay us, essentially, because there's legalities behind it. So if once you've trademarked it, it's kind of a first come first serve. If you grab it, you trademark it, then boom, now you can tell other people. Not only can you not practice if you need money, pretty much. And he was afraid that would happen with KaJuKenBo, that maybe someone greedy would come in, trademark KaJuKenBo, and then make people give them all the
so
money and call
so now
themselves
so
CJ.
now because he did that, now other people are going to be greedy enough to attach their name to it, trademark it, and they're going to take people's money, right? So I don't know the fact
Yeah,
that
I mean, I guess it avoided the problem of them being able to take over the entire thing, but it still created the problem where people can still do something similar, right? So they can't take KaJuKenBo, so I can still say I practice KaJuKenBo, and they can't tell me I have to pay them anything. Now, if I attach their name to it, I don't know why I would do that. I would have to give them money. So for your titles question, though, the titles thing came in from Aldo Coscos around the 60s, I believe, 60s, mid 60s, early 70s. It was during the time where there was a little bit of a break from the Godin school to your school when I was talking to David Tavares about this.
Yeah.
And during that time, 70s ish era, Bruce Lee was huge. Aldo Costco decided to go the Kung Fu route. A lot of the schools they were opening were in the San Francisco area where Bruce Lee was. So a lot of the Kung Fu craze was the reason that Aldo Costco spelt, I'm guessing, I don't know, I've never talked to Al about this, but the impression I got was in the 70s, to market KaJuKenBo, they really wanted to bring in Kung Fu and go movies, go towards Hollywood, the whole Hollywood scene, and try to see if they can get KaJuKenBo big there. So when that happened, Aldo Costco started doing cross training. Even Seijo started doing cross training in Kung Fu in Hawaii. And Aldo Costco's knowing the Chinese community in Hawaii they all saw what Seijo was doing in Hawaii, and the Chinese community in Hawaii gave the whole word we were using, Seijo, that wasn't around. They came in and gave him that title of Seijo. They promoted him to Seijo in the Kung Fu community in Hawaii, and they gave him that title. And that's after that is when they started using the Chinese titles in KaJuKenBo, which happened around the mid 60s, 70s. But again, that during that time, the reason you didn't see that happen is because you at that time they were doing that little break. We talked about the history where Godin went off on his own, and he came back later in, what was the year? He came back later in, you know the year.
Yeah,
You don't know the year. It was around 80s or 90s. Around 80s or 90s, Godin came back, and then they settled all that. But it was during that time, so the reason you would know about it, you weren't, your school wasn't there at that time that was happening.
I still had interactions with a lot of KaJuKenBo schools. There was one in Wahia, where there's one in Kali and stuff. And I don't remember ever a Siju, Sifu, anything. It was always like instructor this or professor this so I don't remember
Which
any of
brings me
that. That was the 70s.
And this brings me to point two. When that happened, Seijo Imperato was approached by his students, and they said, "Hey, we want to do what you do. We don't want to do the Kung Fu stuff. We want to do all this stuff the way you set up the system. We want to keep it just like that. We don't want to change it." And then they came out. Hopefully, this doesn't upset you too much. This is where it started. They came out with the Imperato method KaJuKenBo. There's an Imperato method KaJuKenBo, and if you want to be a part of that branch, you have to do exactly what they tell you to do. That's trademark. And that branch decided to, some of the schools, and again, because it's optional, some of them decided to adopt the Sifu, Sigang, Grandmaster stuff. Some of them decided not to and just keep a chief master instructor and all that stuff. But now, fast forward to now, I don't know if there's any schools that are doing that. If anybody knows, let me know. But from up to my knowledge, that happened, and they were allowed to do usual with KaJuKenBo. I think one thing that's pretty dominant in KaJuKenBo is a fuck you, I won't do what you told me attitude, and we allow it. So if you don't want to do what someone tells you to do, you have a black belt, yeah, we'll disagree, but we'll kind of allow it. So at that point, I don't know if right now, I mean, to my knowledge, everyone's using the Chinese titles now, even though back then they were not. So it was kind of a split. Some people were, some people weren't. I have some comments here real quick, though. I'm going to stop my rant. Let's see here, going up. Jesse says, I agree with the Kung Fu titles. I don't like them. Timothy, American systems should speak English or Spanish. After all, Japanese is the language for Japanese martial artists. Chinese is the language of Chinese martial artists, Korean, etc. Jesse agrees with Timothy. Timothy says, speak in the native language. Arts in English. English is the best compromise. Rocks Forever says nobody should be able to trademark a martial art of any kind. Martial arts should belong to the entire of humanity. Okay. And Timothy says GRF. Responding to him. Unfortunately, sometimes people want to protect the legacy from scammers. Did you come across any in your rabbit hole drop? Did you come across anything that looked like a scam to you? Anything that looked like completely preposterous? Like this is definitely not KaJuKenBo. This person looks like they're flailing.
I saw a lot of Yeah, so not I'm not it's not shamming or scamming or anything. It's just it's not the Kaji Kempo I remember. I'm not they want to do they want to go fancy, they want to go fucking Hollywood and kung fu, kung foolish, whatever they want to do and make it a whole different system that it was, take it to the mainland and dress it up a little, make sure you follow Bruce Lee and shit. But so then you change it. I mean, that's fine, but to me it just doesn't ring true for what Kaju Kempo, which was founded in an English speaking territory, which became a state, and it's a state, it's America, and we speak English as not Chinese. And if they wanted to do it Hawaiian, nobody spoke Hawaiian. You know what I mean? My instructors are called Kumu, and that means instructor, right? So all it means teacher basically. So my instructors are called Kumu. We just started doing that a long time ago under Hawaiian Kempo. But Kazu Kempo wasn't like that. It was it was assistant instructor, instructor, chief instructor, professor, master, grandmaster, it had English terminology. And the kung fu was they called some Chinese boxing, but it was a hard style. Then to make a hard style like Kaji Kempo, turn it soft by adding all the kung fu to it, it just made no sense. So when I see it, it just it doesn't make me angry because I have Hawaiian Kempo and I'm fine with that. And I'm fine with Kaju Kempo doing what it did, but it's not Kaju Kempo that I remember, and I don't think it's the original Kaju Kempo. So if all these people want to have their own, little methods and go off here and there, it's still to me not true Kaju Kempo. Like my system is Hawaiian Kempo. It's not Hawaiian Kempo. It's not Kaju Kempo either. But I did that because I knew if I'm not going to stick to Kaji Kempo 100%, including the terminology, I don't think I have the right to call it Kaji Kempo. So I changed it to Hawaiian Kempo. Yeah.
And again, like I think you're really hitting that point in history where I said the Kaji Kempo that you remember, right? That's what the original Emperado method
Yeah.
guys say. That's what they say. This is the Kaji Kempo we remember, and this is what we're gonna do.
Yeah.
And if you look at it, it's very much what Godin was doing,
Yeah.
because and then with all the Palama sets and the punch tricks. So one of the things I said, because after I talked to you, you mentioned point sparring. So I put this out there in the KaJuKenBo Training Society page. I asked how many of you had to spar full contact, continuous sparring, ground OK rules coming up in the ring. And how old are you? No judgment. I'm just trying to figure something out. This is the question I asked to the KaJuKenBo community. And I would say I got about 36 people who responded, and only two of them said that they did light contact. And the two people that said that, I took out their schools. They do like jujitsu and they do like MMA rule sparring, but they do light contact. But everyone else had stories of full contact, continuous sparring. Some of the older school guys went as far as saying, "Yeah, we shouldn't have. It was not a good idea to, but we did it without cups, and people got hurt, and sometimes we didn't have the right gear. We were doing bare knuckle fighting." Here's just some of the comments. I'm 53. I started when I was 14. My instructor used to use a plastic bat on us if we didn't do the right stance during a promotion. We did full contact. Uh, we did point sparring for class tournaments, but when it came time for a belt test, it was full contact, continuous with 5 to 7 seconds on the ground if you get taken down. When we say anything goes, anything goes. If it's not real, get rid of it. 1980s, 58. I asked them how old they were. 44. We did hard sparring, and we had people who competed in kickboxing all the time come in. Sport jiu-jitsu was part of the curriculum. Sparring once a grip was made. Then we would go into Then if it was full contact, and then if we went to the ground, we'd initiate jiu-jitsu from there. Um, yeah, so just over and over again, everyone's saying, and I see a lot of younger people here, but I see a lot of people 40 and up, even 28, saying the same thing: full contact sparring. Now, I know we talked about there's other ways to do this, but it's just interesting to me. Earlier on the phone about the animal instinct. Can you go a little bit on that? Can you elaborate on that for a
Yeah,
second?
I think that's two different topics, but one of them is like it's not just the point fighting. It was like standing in that cry sense and like, when they try to score the point. That's not like that's nothing, Kempo about that. Point sparring is great, if especially if you're doing it continuous, but they do like the bouncing and it's they do one shot and they like turn their back. They think they scored a point and they look at the judges. That kind of point fighting. Like just the kind that's nothing to do with Kempo, but for some reason they're doing it now. It's like what happened to where is Kempo? Where did you take my Kempo? And that should be the name of this. Where did you where where's
Take.
Kempo? Where did you take my Kempo? It's like that's not Kempo, guys. And then they score to the and then they look at the referees and the judges and they score a point and then woo, then they do a little hook kick and that's not Kempo, guys. None of that has to do. And if you do it, that's great. If you like that, do that. But don't call it KaJuKenBo. It's just, oh man. It's just maybe because I came up with it, I don't want that. That's not its legacy. If you want to, it's not the legacy of KaJuKenBo. It's not. And so that's what kind of gets me on that. So that was that part of it. What was the other? That was a two-parted question. There was that the
Yeah,
point
and then
fighting.
you were saying it lost its animal instinct.
Yeah.
That's what
Well.
you told me on the phone before off camera.
Oh yeah.
Those
Yeah.
are the things you used.
I don't know. I don't think I said it lost its animal instinct, but the animal instinct was like the one thing that to me held it all together. And Godin said it. Emperado said it, and the hardcore KaJuKenBo guys would always talk about either animal instinct or killer instinct, and they always finish on the ground, and you always finish them, wherever they are, whatever position you finish them. So there was a lot of take to the ground and finish them. And while then he would say, that's when the animal instinct comes out because if you don't finish them, they might get up and finish you. So you have to finish them or stop the threat. If it's in self defense lingo, it's stop the threat. So I'm not saying they don't do that, but it doesn't appear that that's the overwhelming philosophy of the KaJuKenBo school. A lot of the KaJuKenBo schools out there, and that kind of bothers me because it is supposed to be a hardcore um, self defense. They should look at KaJuKenBo first, not Krav Maga or any other type of self defense. It should be KaJuKenBo. That's what it was made for. And sometimes when you watch some of the guys training KaJuKenBo now, it just doesn't look like that's the country's hardcore self defense system, and that bothers me a little bit. I don't
And
know.
again, if you're looking for that, you can find it in that DVD set. I think one of the self defense techniques I saw was if a guy grabs you by the arm, you trap the arm and you grab him by the hair. So at the time, it'd be hard to do that to you, man. But at the to Gary Forback, he had long hair back then in the video. It's like an '80s video. He's got like the puffy '80s perm curly hair, and the guy grabs him by that hair and just yanks him down. And he yanked him like he's getting busted up for the DVD. It didn't look like it was being done soft or held back. He grabbed him by the hair and put his face into the ground Luckily, there was grass, but some of the stuff when you talk about the old school KaJuKenBo and the way they did things.
Yeah.
So we're
And to
almost
be
done. We're
honest,
almost out of time.
and
But good.
that's the philosophy um, of KaJuKenBo, the killer instinct. But one thing I disagree with, and one reason I talked to Godin, I said I can't keep the KaJuKenBo name is because I don't believe in the any moves in a row. I don't believe in it in a real life situation. Whether it's a kata with a bunch of phony moves, or even a hardcore technique where it's it's a self defense technique. Because if anyone stays there long enough, you can do anything more than three moves, and then you have to go to something else. If it's choreographed after three moves, then you're going to be in trouble because the majority of the time that person is not going to be where you expect them to be when you're coming up with that next move. You know what I mean? You could do spontaneous, 100% spontaneous, where you're just moving when you're visualizing the techniques coming at you, right? And it's always changing. And there's no rhyme or reason to it. It's always changing. It's never the same 10 or 12 moves, bing, 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 because people aren't going to stay there while you're doing your boom, 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 boom. It's just, they're not going to stay there with their arm out, letting you grab their arm and then do like 5 strikes in their face while they just stand there. So I always kind of had a thing about those things. Um, I like the first move out of it, a lot of them, especially the grab arts. But then after the second move, the guy's not gonna keep standing there with his arms extended while you can kick, punch, knee, bum, 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 and he just stands there. So I didn't like those, but I like the animal instinct which they did them with, but I didn't think they were really applicable or efficient or effective for the street.
Which is interesting again, like a lot of that original. I don't know. And I'm not trying to compare stuff. People always, I'm not trying to. And I also want to disclaim, I'm not part of the Imperato method, but a lot of that DVD series had exactly that. It was like a punch, a kick, a takedown, a kick, a punch, a takedown. Get out of the way of the hit, a punch, a kick, a take. It was real simple stuff. It wasn't like where it is now is totally different from what I see out of that DVD series. Like, and I'm
I
not
think
trying to
because
criticize what people are doing now.
I think a lot of people do the what were they called? There was a bunch of them where it's just bing, 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 and I like those. But the majority of them, the ones you had to remember for each belt, they probably had like 8 to 10 techniques on each one, each grab art, each this and
Oh,
that.
wow.
But there was a bunch. There was a few tricks that were just bum, bum, bum. I think they were called. Maybe they were grab tricks or punch. They were named something
Yeah,
else,
they're called punch tricks.
and then they were
Yeah,
just quick
punch trick, grab tricks.
bing, bing,
I
bing,
think there were the
bing. Yeah.
ABCs or something like that. It was like
There's
the ABCs or something.
Yeah, I don't remember the name, but
Yeah.
there was some of them, but the majority we had to memorize for belts all had a bunch of techniques. Like, and then there's the kata. Where's that? What does that have to do with anything? So anyway, I think we just need KaJuKenBo back. Just KaJuKenBo. Just KaJuKenBo. If you have a place in you can name it after your city or your state or your region. If you want to you want to make it more your own, you want to stamp it, right? You want to personalize it, but putting your name on it would be like if you franchise Starbucks and you put Hackelman Starbucks. It doesn't fit, I don't think.
All right. Well, we are towards the end, and as talked about, me and John said that at the end of every episode, we'll attend to a Q&A real
Yeah.
quick. And the Q&A that we got last time, someone last time asked us about when's a good time to do a double leg takedown in MMA? When's a good time for that? Double leg takedowns in MMA and when to do them.
Wow, there's no right time. I mean, sometimes it's easier if you can corner him up against the cage, It makes it a little easier because he doesn't have his hips to escape. But then sometimes he has a better cage defense. A lot of people do. They call it the rock and roll escape, and then some people can do they're talking about a double right in the middle of the cage if they're fast enough to do it. But it's usually here the best time to do it for everyone is if you're being outstruck. If you're being outstruck, that means punch, kicks, elbows, knees. If they're getting the best of you there, then you should take it to the ground. And to do that, you're probably going to use a double leg, single, whatever that takedown is. But to take it to the ground is to be done when you're not doing great standing. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. If you're beating the guy standing up, bang. If it's kind of close standing up, maybe you could do a takedown and then stand up and then just make them worry about both. But if you are not winning on the stand up and you don't think you're going to be winning on the stand up and you don't want to get the shit kicked out of you, that is the time to do a double leg takedown.
All right. So that was our question for today. Last few comments from Jesse. I agree. Few strikes, keep it simple. And Guitar Rocks Forever sounds very like an interesting DVD series. I fully agree that moves should be simple. All right, man, we did it. I think we covered it.
We did it. And let me just say, let me just say in closing. I love KaJuKenBo. I love KaJuKenBo. Like I love anything that I've grown up with and I love. I love my community where I grew up. I love my community where I am now. But I love Hawaii. I love the culture. I'm not crazy about what's happening to it, but I am crazy about it. I love it. And the same with KaJuKenBo. I love it. It raised me. It raised me, and I'm grateful for KaJuKenBo. I pray every day, and it's one of the things I'm grateful for, and it comes in every day. But there are some things I'm not crazy about the way it's going, and there's certain things about it I'm not as crazy about. So I'm gonna, I'm gonna bring it out, and if somebody doesn't agree with me, hey, call me out on it. Come on the show. If you don't agree with me, come on the show or do a live with me on Instagram or whatever you want. If you do not agree with me, um, then let's text me, tweet me, Instagram me, Pit_Master, and we'll do a live. All right. So somebody just talked about St. Louis Heights, and in Hawaii, it's actually, and this is the next hill over. It's St. Louis Heights and then Manalani Heights. We go up. Our walk is up Manalani Heights. If you have some hills up St. Louis Heights, I've never been up there. I would love to, but maybe that's a good idea. But every year we go up Wilhelmina Rise, which is it's on Manalani Heights. So it's not St. Louis Heights, it's Manalani Heights.
All right. Well, every Wednesday, 5 o'clock Pacific Standard Time.
The park is Manalani Heights, yes. He said there's a park up there. But anyway,
There's a park up there.
5 o'clock, we will be here. And let's talk about this. If anybody wants to talk about this more, feel free. Okay?
Yeah, you can bring it up. You bring it up. I'll if you bring it up in the comments, I'll bring it up in the show, no matter what the topic is of the day. And also, don't forget, folks, if you have any questions, even if we don't attend to them right away, I will put them in a Q&A for the next episode.
And that left hook video winner, I hope he got his shirt.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope he got it.
All right, guys, I'll see ya.
Catch you all later. Peace.